Welcome to Perfect-ish, where it's not about having perfect time management, but about perfecting your relationship with time. I'm your host, Callie Brigham, and every week we'll talk all things time and how to maximize it without burnout or guilt. Whether we're chatting with an expert or I'm sharing my 20 years of time management experience, you'll learn simple strategies to make every moment count. Here, it's all about getting close to perfect-ish. So let's synchronize our watches and dive in. Hi, friend. Welcome to Perfect-ish, where it is all about time management for your beautifully imperfect life. Happy New Year, and whether you are listening while you're folding laundry, sipping your coffee, maybe finding a quiet moment just for you, I'm so glad that you're here. And this is your space to grow, give yourself grace, a little bit of learning, and we're perfecting one thing at a time. Hence, perfect-ish. And we have a tradition here in Perfect-ish. We talk about a word of the year, and this is no different. We're going to jump right into the word of the year. Now, you may already have yours. Fantastic. I'm so excited for you. And what I hope to give you, in addition to your word, are some ways to have action with your word, how to apply your word, how to have fun with your word. And if you don't have your word, let me also just say you are not behind. Again, this is Perfect-ish podcast. So if you're thinking, oh no, I should already have that by now, let me also just say the way that the calendar fell this year and the way that the new year was, and then it was a little while till there was a Monday, you are not behind. You're right where you're supposed to be. So if you are feeling like, okay, real life is here, but I want to face this new year unapologetically ambitious, driven. I'm building a life that matters. And I know that there's going to be challenges. I know the challenges are managing my time and protecting my energy and staying focused on what truly matters. Well, guess what? You're in the right place because our mission is to do that without burnout, without guilt, without sacrificing yourself. And you are right in the right place with us. So if you're a longtime listener to the show, you may have known us as the TikTok podcast. And now you're thinking, wait, this sounds a little bit fresh and a little bit new, and it is. You can go back to listen to the bonus episode, episode 90, if you want to know a little bit about the background on what made the change, what this is going to look like. But if you're like, no, I'm ready to go. Let's go. All right, here we are. Word of the year. So I just want to say, what if we replaced a strict resolution? I am not a fan, by the way. Excuse me, still fighting off this cough. I'm not a fan of resolutions because I feel like a resolution is really starting to set you up for failure. And why is that? Most resolutions are either way too big, way too ambitious. And here on the Perfect-ish podcast, we are about starting small, not starting strong. Because the second element in that is it requires a lot of discipline. And in future episodes, we have some amazing guests. And one of our guests is going to talk about how to create a habit. So this is perfect. Let's come up with our word now. And then she's going to help us curate how to implement habits that go along with it. Because the deal is discipline will only get you so far. Discipline will get somebody in the gym, maybe on January 1st, maybe on January 2nd. But then when their typical routine or life happens to them, then we can find any old treadmill on about January 15th, right? So it's not about a strict resolution. It's not about a strict goal. It's not about trying to force yourself to have discipline. A word of the year is more like a guiding star. Does that make sense? So think of it like the star that's pointing you and guiding you in the direction that you're setting that you want to go. It's not perfect, but it's perfectly you. So this is a bit more flexible, a bit less restrictive as an alternative. And I'm just going to tell you, I was resistant for many years. So if you're already thinking, this is not for me. Yeah, I was right there with you. And about a decade ago, when I really started to hear about it, I was just thinking, yeah, if somebody tells me to do it, I know this is a flaw, a character flaw. If everybody's doing it and they're doing something good, not like when you're a teenager and everybody's doing the wrong thing. When everybody's doing a good thing, I still don't want to be a bandwagon girl. And so I tend to resist it. I also, I think sometimes thought it was a little woo woo. I thought, does it really matter at the end of the day? And you know what? It can be all of those things. It can. It can be a bandwagon thing. It can maybe feel woo woo. Maybe sometimes you've tried a word of the year and it just didn't work out for you. Or maybe you're thinking, is that really something that I should spend my time on? Well, spoiler alert, yes, you should, in my opinion. And I'm going to tell you why as I run through some of my personal words that I've had over the years. So let me also kick it off by saying what my word is. Now, you may already know because I've said it about 100 million times in the last 48 hours. My word is perfect-ish. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about that coming up in a few minutes. But there we go. My word is perfect-ish. I'm even wearing a hat. I even have a bracelet. Remember, I said we're going to have fun with it. So let's start, though, by choosing your word. If you've already chosen your word, great. I think you can still listen. This discovery process may still help you in the future, or it may help to further align your word or maybe even add to it. So I believe that sometimes you pick your word and sometimes your word picks you. I've had it both ways. So if you haven't found a word yet, here are some ways that you can do that. First of all, I already said this word, you got to make it fun. It is not a chore. This is not yet one more thing on a to-do list. This is a treasure hunt. So I want you to look for clues. My husband just got us as a late delayed Christmas gift, this like detective kit that we can do as a family where you're looking for clues and you're trying to find out who done it. Okay, same thing. Look for clues. Clues in conversations, clues in songs, maybe a clue in a book. I got my word of the year one year from the title of a book. Or maybe even in that random thought that just keeps coming back to you while you're brushing your teeth. Or for me, it's the shower. I don't know what it is. It's probably because there's not a lot of other things I can do in the shower. And there's something about it. I have my best thoughts, my best prayers in the shower. I have a lot of them on walks too. So listen for that clue. Listen for something that's repetitive. Listen to something that keeps coming back and you're thinking, maybe that's not by accident. It could even be on a billboard that you see. So it could be written somewhere. That happened to me one year as well. I'll try to remember to tell you about the billboard moment and then about the book moment. So all different ways in your space. And when you're looking for something, that's usually when you find it. I remember talking to my mom about dogs because she was really starting to say, I know the kids are wearing you down about a dog and you should really think about it. And I was like, no, I don't want a dog. And now I just never, ever want her to leave me ever. I just need her to live forever. But when we were thinking about dogs, what did we see everywhere? Dogs. When you are pregnant, who do you see everywhere? Pregnant women. When you're thinking about buying a blue car, what do you see everywhere? Blue cars. So when you're thinking about your word and you're open to it, guess what you're going to find? Your word. Now, on the flip side, you can also be intentional by reflecting on an area that you want to grow. So maybe it's a mindset area, maybe it's a relationship area or accomplishment area. So you can really set the tone for your word intentionally by thinking, this is an area of my life I really want to grow. And some of the ways that you can find your word in that, if you're like, I'm just not that creative, it's just really challenging for me. Okay, I've got two resources. The first resource is Dayspring. You can just go or Google Dayspring. They have a quiz every year. You can answer the questions in the quiz, and it's going to give you a suggested word of the year. That's a good starting point. The other thing, let me introduce you to my friend, ChatGPT. Yeah, you can AI it. By the way, I've named my chat. Her name is Kathy, as in chatty Kathy. Get it? So I talk to her like she's my friend, my personal assistant, like she's my copywriter. She's my, everything. She's my everything. Put into ChatGPT some elements of your life that you want to focus on or you want to grow in or you want to be better at or you just want to invest your time in. Put those in, then let chat give you some ideas, maybe 10 different possible words. And you will be amazed at some of those. And I bet that's going to help. The deal about your word is it doesn't have to fix everything, Remember, we put a lot of pressure on this word. It doesn't have to fix it. It's just here to guide you. I want you to think of your word as a compass, not a checklist. Just making sure that you're continuing to go in the direction that you want to for this year. Your word also doesn't have to sound deep or be Insta-worthy, although I have a free Canva template for you. Who doesn't like a freebie? In the show notes, I'll put it on social too. It's in our Facebook community as well, that you can plaster your word there. So it can be Insta-worthy. But the word, I don't want you to put that pressure on yourself. It just needs to resonate with you. Think of it as your vibe. We've used that word era in a long time, a lot recently, right? I'm in my and era, or I'm in my, I guess, my perfect-ish era. Well, it's your blank, fill in the blank era. So in discovering your word, narrow it down, maybe to one or two words. You can sit with them for a few days. I remember when we were naming our kids, this is not near as much pressure, right, as naming your kid. My husband and I had a short list of names. We put it on the fridge and we each had veto power. So we could go up to the fridge and for no other reason, we could just mark through. It's like what jury selection, right? You have those few freebies that you could just eliminate somebody. So if you're like, you know what? There was a kid in elementary school and he used to pick his nose and he had that name. I can't do it, right? I feel sorry for teachers. I know that it must be very difficult naming your kids because you've had so many different students over the years with so many different names. But you can go ahead and put it up on the fridge, put it somewhere, and just start eliminating them as you know for sure it's not the word. And you know what? Also, no pressure. You can even try out a few and change it later. So maybe you try out a couple words for a week or two. And I really believe you'll have the knowingness there. Okay, so choosing your word, make it fun. It's a treasure hunt. Remember that you can either be actively pursuing your word or you can wait and see what comes to you. Either one is great. All right. Second thing I'm going to do is give you a few examples of some of my words that I've had and just sort of what that looked like. So I won't take too much time on this because it's not about my word, but in case it serves you. So here are my past words from the beginning. Surrender was my very first word. Then I had today. Man, I loved some of these words, by the way. Possibilities, love, truth, light, bloom, voice. How do you like that for last year, the podcast year? And now perfect-ish are my words. My goal with each word was to connect it to an action. And sometimes that meant finding a definition for it that really resonated with me. Sometimes it was, how could I apply that every day in a small way? And the great thing about doing that was those words have stayed with me ever since the beginning. For example, when I picked the word surrender, I started every morning with my surrender prayer. Hold my hands open. I go through my whole entire day, as basic as it might be, as mundane as it might be, and I literally say out loud everything that I have planned for the day and I surrender it. So I surrender my breakfast and I surrender my walk and I surrender my workout and I surrender this conversation and I surrender, you name it, I surrender it. And I started that, 9 years ago? And I still do that every morning. So I wanted something that I could practically put into my life that wasn't like, oh yeah, what was my word again? No, the surrender. I love the word today because I started to look into different ways of having action with that. And it was, we're only promised today, or live in today, or be thankful for today. And so that was a really important word, especially in that season. Possibilities came from the title of a book, amazing book called The Art of Possibility. And I was reading it, and the author, who is a very world famous conductor, was talking about his dad. His dad went into an internment camp in World War II. He was Jewish, went into this internment camp, and he saw two different groups of people. He saw people that, really felt like they were at the lowest of the low. Of course, everybody was, but the lowest of the low, so depressed, no purpose, no mission. He looked around the camp and he thought, wait a minute, we have the most brilliant minds here, professors of mathematics, and we have authors, and we have musicians, and I bet we could create a university here. And he did. And every day, these thought leaders and visionaries would share almost like a college course with everybody else in this internment camp. And he turned everything around with their attitude. That was the art of possibility. And I thought, I want to live like that. And guess what year that was? 2020. Talk about an opportunity every single day to see the possibility in something. The good, you can choose. Every day you can choose. Love that, man. That was the one that was on a billboard. I was walking, I'll never forget, Hollywood Beach, Florida. I'm walking and I see it and I thought, oh no, oh no. So I will say, if you have a word and you think, oh no, that's not always a bad thing. Because I thought, oh, it's like praying for patience. You don't want to pray for patience because then God gives you opportunities to have to be patient. And I thought, oh no, God's going to give me opportunities to try to love people that are unlovable. I know that's the first thing I thought of until I realized that it's not my job to do that because love is a fruit of the Spirit. And a fruit only grows, flourishes, blossoms, does what it's supposed to do when it's attached to the tree or the vine. That's what it does. It doesn't force itself. An apple doesn't make itself grow. It's because it's attached to the source that it naturally, the byproduct is the growth from a seed to an apple. Well, same thing with love because it's fruit of the Spirit. I didn't have to do it. I didn't have to love every day. I just needed to be close to the source. And then love was going to come out. You see? Also, my next word, truth. I didn't like that one either. I thought I'm going to have to confront people. But then I realized, again, when I started to look at definitions of it, that the truth sets you free. There's freedom in truth. Light, that was a really good one. I needed that one, especially after the pandemic. I needed light, starting every day, feeling like being the light, being in the light, shining the light, blooming. That was my next one. And I really worked on not comparing myself that year. I was right where I was supposed to be. And whatever kind of flower I was, that's what I was supposed to be. Voice, that one just came to me a couple months before the end of the year that year in a little bit of a quiet time. And I thought, ooh, am I going to magically be able to sing? But no, it was having a voice and having a platform for a voice. And that was the podcast. And then this year it's perfect-ish because you could write the word excuse me, you could write the word PERFECT. And then you could write right next to it, PERFECT. And you know what? They look exactly the same. But one is perfect and the other one is perfect. And I decided it's not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about one thing at a time and really working in excellence in that. And also, there's just kind of some fun with Perfect Dish and a lot of great merch. Okay, so those were some examples for me. I actually had a friend who just messaged me that she decided through some prayer and through some time that she was going to actually keep her same word from last year. She said it was hard though. She thought, no, I want a fresh new word. But she felt like for the first time in 13 years, God was having her repeat the same word. And she said she was kind of bummed, but now she's excited. Her word is diligent. Okay, so next, how do we implement our word? Well, we got to make it visible. We have to be able to see it all the time. We need repetition, trust me. So what are some of the things you could do? You could set your word as your phone wallpaper. You could use that Canva template that I have. You could use that as your wallpaper so that every time, how many times a day do we look at our phone? Every time you're being reminded of it. Now, I had a friend one time who was making a vision board. And she said that over time, she had her vision board up on her wall. She became so accustomed to it and so used to it that she would just pass it without looking. So what she realized she had to do was every time she passed it, she would touch it. So the same thing, it might be your phone wallpaper and you might get so accustomed to it when you swipe up Face ID, you don't even see it. How about every time you trace it with your finger? Just as a little reminder. Maybe it's time to write it at the top of your weekly plan every week or your journal. Just every week. And that's what I do. When I'm on my Fridays, when I'm planning, at the top now, I write my word just so that I'm thinking, okay, it's not just about having a word. It's about how can that word be lived out in my intention for the week, in my plan for the week, or again, as you're journaling. Another thing you can do is have it on a bracelet. Okay, I've got my bracelets here. I love my bracelets. And I have a resource for you. My girl, Kirsten, she has an Etsy store. I've now gotten all my bracelets. I give my bracelets to my friends too. But she decided that she would bless us with a 20% discount for our listeners. Perfect Dish 20 is the discount code. It's linked in the show notes. Get in there and get your bracelet. Get one for a friend. Get a couple if you want to. And now you can have a whole stack, just like I have. So make sure you're in our Facebook community. I'll remind you about it in there too. The next thing I do is I display it on my bathroom mirror. I'll put a picture of this in our social and in our community too, because who doesn't need a reminder and a pep talk while you're brushing your teeth, while you're washing your face? And so I have all of my words that I write in wine marker. You can use dry erase marker. It doesn't matter. I just happen to have a wine marker when I decided to do this. And it almost frames, it's almost like a full, well, maybe like a 3/4 frame on my mirror where I have all of my words so that every day I'm looking at them. And again, I wanted to build on them, not just a one-time thing. And of course, we've got that Canva template for you. Now, a few more ways to reinforce it. So we need to make it visible. Phone wallpaper, writing it down on your weekly planner, your bracelet, your bathroom mirror, you name it. Well, I also want to reinforce this through a few other things. Reinforcing this through your daily prayers, through maybe speaking it every day. Wouldn't it be great to have a goal to say your word every day? Find out if you can use it in a sentence. Make it a little challenge for yourself and say, okay, every day I'm going to say my word somehow, kind of like the secret word of the day. I also love to find a song that has the word in it. So obviously there's not a song of perfect-ish, but I did find a song that talked about being perfectly imperfect. So maybe you find a song that you can listen to that you start your day with or you end your day with. I love to also find a verse for it. Mine is Hebrews 12:2. I'll share the NIV version and I'll actually go back to verse 1. And verse 1 says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us." Verse 2, "Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith." That's the NIV version. The pioneer and perfecter of faith. The New Living Translation, I love that too. He says, we do this by keeping our eye on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. So finding a verse and then journaling weekly about how your word is showing up in your life. So these are some of the ways to implement your word. All right, so let's wrap up by saying, let's have some accountability here. Let's have some built-in check-ins into your routine. Again, daily, weekly, monthly. Is it helping guide your decisions? Does it need a little refresh? Because the last thing we want to do is set it and forget it. I know it's so common, trust me, that we get to the end of the year or maybe midway through the year and we don't even remember what our word was, let alone utilize the power of the words that we have. And so, on that note, I do want to say that if you try it out and the word stops working mid year, it is totally okay to switch it up. This is not a marriage, it's a partnership. So, if the word is not pulling its weight, it can go. You can also, I have a girlfriend who has an acronym. She's like, I can't come up with just one. So she has an acronym. This year, her word is flow. And so she has 4 words. It's okay to have 4 words. It's okay to intentionally midway through the year or once a quarter mix up your words. Or maybe some years I've had a word and then I had sort of a additional part to the word. That is absolutely okay too. So I'm going to encourage you for accountability to also share this in our community. And maybe you share it with girlfriends like I did with mine. And so now we all have bracelets so that we can remind each other of the word. How's that word working for you? So share that and celebrate it. Okay, so are you ready? To either have your word or you're going to be working on your word or working on applying and implementing your word. Why do we do this on a time management podcast? Because once we know the direction, the compass is pointing us in that direction, then we can decide through our activity, through our weekly plan, does this serve what I want to do? Or is this a no for now? Is this a yes on my schedule? Or is this a no or a delegation or maybe later for me? This will help serve as sort of the umbrella for the decisions that you're going to make this year. So approach it with curiosity. We're aiming for lives that are productive and peaceful and not perfect. Okay, so the free resources I have for you, the Canva template, don't forget that, the bracelet as well. And so this is just the beginning, friends. I have a lot planned for us in 2025. We're going to reclaim our time. We're going to own our journey. And if you're thinking, gosh, this is the kind of thing I need, I hear the information. Okay, there's so much information we share on this podcast, but I need the actual accountability and the application. That's where a time management mentor or a time management coach comes in. You can schedule a free time management call with me to see if having a time management coach would work for you. That way you can kickstart your year with some focus and some clarity, and just having someone that can help maybe see the forest for the trees, right? Someone who can pull back a little bit and help give you some specific and individual tools so that you can accomplish what you want to this year. So you can get your free call. It's in the show notes. You can DM me for that too. All right, so here we are, nudging us in the right direction, our word for the year. And I am cheering you on as you step into 2025. And so thank you for spending a little bit of your precious time with me today. I hope that this episode gave you something to think about, maybe laugh about a little bit, breathe a little easier about, because it's not about being perfect. It's about making progress in our beautifully imperfect ways. So until next time, and don't forget, perfect-ish is absolutely enough. God bless. Thanks for tuning in to the Perfect-ish Time Management Podcast. Let's keep the fun going. Follow me on social and join our Facebook community. And if you're ready for some one-on-one time management coaching to reach the top of your game without burnout or guilt, I'd love to chat. Book a free interest call using the link in the show notes or send me a DM. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a 5-star review and share it with a friend who's ready to master their time too. Remember, we're in this together, making real progress towards becoming perfect-ish.